Okay, we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for tuning into another regular Wednesday night live stream. As per usual, we will begin with the tradition of reading a current Bible verse. Today's Bible verse is, "Let love be without hypocrisy. Abhor what is evil, cling to what is good, be kindly affectionate to one another with brotherly love, in honor of giving preference to one another." Romans chapter 12, verses 9 to 10. Today, my guest is someone who I'm actually behind the scenes working with to rid myself of 2 fines. But so this is Zev. Zev calls himself a bush lawyer, which essentially is, if you watch the show Suits, he would be Mike Ross, the non-lawyer being a lawyer. Hello, Zev. Thank you very much for coming on the show. How are you?
All right. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm actually so happy to have you on. I've been wanting you on my show, as you well know, because I was quite persistent and annoying to get you on. And now we have you. Tell me, first of all, before anything, how you stepped into this role.
Well, look, I think even back as a young fella and a teenager, I knew something wasn't right.
Yeah.
There was too much that didn't make sense and didn't add up. And by the time I was about 18, 19, which is about 25 years ago now, roughly, give or take a year or two, I found myself out doing a lot of forest actions and activism work, shutting down logging and mining operations and chaining myself to trees and bulldozers and sitting up tripods. And I found myself in court a lot through doing this. And I couldn't understand why things were going pear-shaped for me because I hadn't done anything wrong. And so I decided, well, look, if I'm going to be doing a lot more of this activism stuff, I really need to learn how this court stuff works and the laws work, because I was pretty sure we hadn't broken any laws in standing up for the environment and protecting land and water and trying to shut down unlawful logging and mining operations and coal seam gas, etc. So I started, just out of choice, as I started learning this stuff, deliberately getting myself arrested so I could go to court and experiment. And
wow.
Some of it worked really well. Some of it didn't work so good, and this is how I learned, because I got slapped a few times and thrown out of court and went, all right, won't do that again. So it's been nearly 25 years of doing this sort of stuff and 25 years almost of activism, which has kind of led to a lot of good and bad experience, you know. They say good judgment comes from experience and experience comes from bad judgment. So I kind of did both to learn what I've learned and still learning. You know, my theory is we finish learning when we're dead. Until then, there's a lot more to learn. And we have to keep learning because these tyrannous bastards that we call a government keep changing the rules, moving the goalposts, changing the laws. Yeah. Every time we find a loophole and enough of us get through that loophole, they plug the hole, they change things. So we've got to keep changing and adapting our approach over the years, as do the government, for trying to silence us and suppress us. But at the end of the day, we have rights. And this is what it all comes down to, our inalienable rights.
And so, I want to talk about those rights, because at the moment, the main right that we seem to be really, the one that scares the shit out of me, is the certificates, interstate certificates. I don't want to have the vaccine, so I want to be able to go interstate at my choosing. But if that goes to pass, we've essentially, once again, being cut off at the knees with something else. Like, we already have to pay a car registration every year for something that's already ours. We already have to. Okay, well, we'll get on to that. But we already have. We already, like, okay, so my sister has kids, my cousins have kids, different people have kids. Your kids can't go to childcare unless they've listed their vaccinations. Again, I know you're going to say, oh, not really. But the point is, the point is that I'm scared, and all my family's in Melbourne. I live in Sydney. what the hell? Like, so how do you respond to that? Obviously, what does it mean law-wise, arbitrary goalpost moving-wise, and how do we combat that? Shouldn't they like ask us? Shouldn't we get a referendum if we want these stupid vaccine passports? Go ahead, it's all yours.
Right. Well, a couple of first things. One, at the moment, we've got the people shit scared of the government.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be the other way around. The government should be petrified of we, the people. They're there to serve us. They're there to represent the will of the people. So learning a lot of our stuff there, you've got to comment on our constitutional rights. Our rights go way deeper than the Constitution. The Constitution, for example, is not there to govern us, we the people. We the people created the Constitution. The Constitution of the Commonwealth of Australia of 1900-1901 even clearly states that we the people will always have supreme authority. The Constitution is not there to govern us. It's there to govern the government, to protect us, we the people, from the government, from how they're supposed to govern. That is the purpose of the Constitution. Now, aside from the Constitution, there are a lot of other much higher laws. The Constitution may be one of the higher written laws we have in this land, but there are many other forms of law and written law that are far higher than that. So if we go, for example, let's go top down on this then, Dia, as to how that works. So the highest form of law which we have is that of natural or divine law, the laws of God, creation, nature, whatever your spiritual or religious beliefs want to call it, whether it be God,
Christian,
nature, creator, doesn't matter. It's coming from the same source.
For sure.
We can't govern over that, nor can the government. The government can't pass laws to say it's illegal to rain in September, for example. That is natural law. We can't change that. We're governed by that.
I love that.
So as living men and women, the only real authority above us is that of natural and divine law. Is where we're created from. Yeah. So as that which created it has the authority, just like we the people created the Constitution, therefore we have the authority over that. So if we go through a little mind map, people, of a hierarchy of laws, for example, we've got our natural divine law, which is absolute, that no one has the authority, no man has the authority or jurisdiction to rule over that. Now, in Australia, we're in a rather unique position here because we're on tribal land here. And the way the hierarchy of laws work goes by the first maxim of law. Now, the very first maxim of law is first in time, first in law. So what existed first? Well, here in Australia, obviously, the tribes and the tribal law existed on this tribal land. It's no secret that our original people, our tribal mob, didn't come here on the boats with Captain Cook because they were already bloody here. So we've got
and the pygmies.
Well, we've got some big issues around that. We've got a guy coming over from the UK or from England who imported foreign laws and foreign maxims of law onto an already well-established and occupied foreign land. Highly illegal and in breach of all the own laws they had back in the day there. So the tribal law, which not being tribal, I won't get too much into as it's not my place, but that's based on natural law as well. That's what they work with for the tribes. So then under there, we've got our, under our tribal law, which is the next thing that came to Australia, for example, is our trust and equity law, the laws of equity. That's very hard to get around. It's recognised internationally. Under there, we have things like our common law, laws of contract, the common law right to contract, followed by things like admiralty and maritime law, which is then followed by, stuff like the Constitution. And then we have all our state and federal bare statutory, which doesn't really apply to living men and women, but nonetheless, they're there. And then underneath there, we've got all of our council bylaws and other bullshit and rules and regulations and directions.
Yes.
So there's a bit of what came first has the highest authority. And then we work down in the chronological order of first in time, first in law. What existed first had precedence over what came after that. So our Constitution, for example, we didn't have one of them until 1900, 1901. There was plenty of laws and other things in play well before that came along. So these will all trump out our Constitution. And again, it's not there to govern us. It's there to govern the government, to protect we the people from the government. Hope that explains a little bit how some of that. It does.
I think the hierarchy helps for sure. Do you think we do you think vaccine passports will be a reality?
No,
or do you think we can combat it?
I don't think they'll ever get away with pushing that on the people with the amount of pushback they're having and the amount of people that
are good.
My
You're the
mum
first person. You're the first person that's actually answered that way. I love it. You've actually made me feel really. You just lifted a pressure off my head and my heart. I've been praying on this for so many days. Sorry, keep going.
They may have something to do with the fact that I don't watch TV or listen to the radio or read newspapers or have anything to do with social media. So I'd also play a part in why I'm not believing this bullshit, because I'm not subject to it. I don't watch it. I don't read it. I don't listen to it.
No, understandable. But my point was, oh my God, we're both catching colds or something.
Yeah, it must be the virus.
Oh my gosh, don't get me started.
Well, for me, it's just a bad smoker's cough. But this is, look, for them to push this vaccine passport to travel interstate, we have the right to travel freely.
We do, right? Yeah.
I often ask people, where do we get our rights from? And they all say often the Constitution. And they go, well, actually, so when you were born, did the Constitution come up to you and say, g'day, I'm the Constitution, here are your rights?
Did to me yesterday.
Yes, no. It's not how it works there, you know. When you're born, you're given rights. Whether you believe in God or not, you get those rights when you take your first breath, or even earlier from a zygote. These are your rights. Yeah. They are your God-given rights, which are inalienable. And because they come from a divine source, it's only that divine source can remove them. The government, the courts, the police, certainly not the bloody health minister. None of these people gave us our rights. Therefore, they have no authority to remove them. That raises the obvious question, how do we lose them? So we lose them.
We're allowing it.
Well, we get tricked and deceived into voluntarily giving them up.
Yeah.
Because we know they can't take them away from us because they didn't give them to us in the first place. So therefore, they trick and deceive us to voluntarily give them up.
Exactly right. And the thing is, right now, the law is being, not the law, maybe it's the word, I don't know the terms I'm supposed to be using, but right now it's diluted, whatever the word is, the law, the Constitution, government, police, it's all diluted, and Australians have no idea, unlike Americans, what's in their Constitution, what your specific rights are, what you're allowed to say no to. I don't even think people realize that the police is a corporation. They're not then.
Well, it's not
sorry?
taught in our schools.
No, it's not.
They don't teach any of this stuff. So if people aren't taught their rights, they don't know what they are. And if they don't know what they are, it's very easy to take them away from people when they've got no idea what they're like. This is what they're relying on, fear and ignorance.
Okay, well, I hate to say that again. Go.
Two key weapons we're up against is that fear and ignorance. I think we've just lost you there too, dear. Just wait for Dia to jump back in.
Can you? Sorry, I don't know what's happening.
That's right. It dropped out and your camera's gone.
Yeah. I'm sorry, everyone. Hang on. Okay. Sorry. Sorry, everyone. So what? Can you repeat what you said?
Just fear and ignorance are two of the big weapons that the government's using against people at the moment. Now, to push this vaccine passport to travel interstate has to be passed as a law. Now, at the moment, we've got all the states going, oh, but it's law. No, it's not. The rules, regulations, and directions. I'm sorry if people watching this are going to have their bubbles burst with hearing me say this, but the health minister going live on television and telling everybody you must do this and giving a direction is not law. The health minister dribbling shit live on mainstream media.
It's a directive.
Law. It's a directive. You're being asked nicely. Now, to enact this properly as a law, one, it needs royal assent, needs to have a minimum of 2 readings in Parliament by a minimum quorum of 20 ministers. To enact it as a law, it needs to be passed through both houses of Parliament. If it's not an act of Parliament, it's not a law.
But are they stupid enough to pass it? That's the fear.
Especially for the guys in Victoria. I mean, wow, just, this is getting out of hand there. So this is another way that they're trying to subvert things. is to try and rush things through without due lawful process. Now, if it hasn't followed due lawful process, it's not lawful. It can't be law. So let's look at, for example, some of what's going on with all this COVID BS. Oh, people are told you've got to do this and directions, rules and regulations here. Well, hang on. This is all done under, the directions and guides of the State of Emergency and the Public Health Act. But the Public Health Act is reliant on other bits of legislation and so-called laws, such as the Biosecurity Act. Now, I've yet to meet anyone in Australia who is actually in receipt of a biosecurity control order in accordance with Section 60 and 61 of the Biosecurity Act. The Biosecurity Control Order is an actual A4 page, which must be submitted in order for biosecurity control orders to be placed on an individual. Sadly, the only people who are authorised to do so are the Chief Biosecurity Officer, a human biosecurity officer, or a biosecurity officer who can issue one of these biosecurity control orders, and they can only do so if someone has displayed symptoms and tested positive to the actual communicable disease to which the biosecurity control order is in reference to. This process hasn't occurred anywhere in Australia to date. So even people quarantined and stuff there, that is a breach of the biosecurity control order because they don't have one. No one's been issued one. These are just small holes that you can poke in all this stuff. Now, we've got all these COVID marshals and police running around enforcing mask mandates.
Yeah.
Authorised delegate. Now, let's look at some of our federal Commonwealth jurisdiction here. Section 3ZZIA, Federal Crimes Act 1914. This refers to powers of delegation. So if we've got these people running around enforcing this on behalf of the health minister with their mythical magical powers bestowed upon them from the health minister, they're required by law in accordance with 3ZZIA of the Federal Crimes Act to provide their instrument of delegation upon request for inspection. The failure to do so constitutes a serious crime or offence against the Commonwealth and can carry up to a 2-year jail term. So next time someone comes and hits you up for you must do this, are you authorised to enforce that? They'll go, oh, yes, I am. Fantastic. Can we see your instrument of delegation, please? They'll generally go pretty quiet on you at that point because not many of them actually have them.
Can I ask what your record is? Like your percentage? Like how many cases do you win in your life? Have you say like, is it 70%, 80%? Like how well do you do? Because
the stuff where I've represented myself in court for my own matters, I've had a really good track rate, like probably 90%.
Good.
Stuff with people, I've had a few really good wins. I've had some really nasty magistrates who have just, not being a lawyer, haven't really allowed me to do much in court. So I've gotten away with a fair bit. I've had a few really good runs. Some of the process and paperwork and processes I teach people have worked really well. We've had big stamp duty claims dropped. I've had fines dropped. I've had charges dropped. I've had a lot of good stuff going. Really depends on the day, on the magistrate. Like I tend to push it. I'm a bit of a cheeky bastard, especially when I'm in court. But there is a way to do this. And that's what I try and do is I try and help people to learn this stuff for themselves because you've got a lot more credence and weight in court when you can do this yourself as opposed to me turning up as a Mackenzie friend or an amicus curiae or a lay advisor in order to assist someone in court. The courts, when they realise they've got someone like me who actually knows what they're doing, they generally don't like to let us speak a lot because they know we're going to undo them. So it's a bit of a challenge to be able to do that for others in court. I enjoy it a lot. I have a lot of fun sticking it up the system when I'm doing that. All I'm really doing is holding them accountable to their own bullshit, pointing out, hang on, you want us to comply with and abide by these laws, which you're not abiding with yourself? How does that work? Are we all equal before the law?
Yeah, exactly.
This is what we try and hold them accountable to.
So are we going to win my little infringement case?
Well, hoping so. We get all the paperwork in, finish the process, and have them in receipt.
I have to get it. I've been a bit slow. Sorry. Yeah.
Once they're in receipt of a collection of unrebutted affidavits, an unrebutted affidavit stands in truth, becomes fact in law, fact in commerce. It's very hard for them to dispute that.
Yeah. There's a lot of chatter in the chat group regarding your name, Zev. Like, what is the background of that name? Is it Polish?
No, it's a Hebrew name, means wolf in English.
Are you Jewish?
Or not religious, but yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It doesn't even matter whether you are. That some people are just idiots. But anyway, okay, all good. You sound pretty damn Aussie to me, I gotta say. You've even got, you got the hat, you got the...
Yeah, I spent a lot of time living rural and remote and out bush and a lot of activism over the years. So yeah, it's what I do.
Do you live off the grid a lot? I feel like you're an off the grid type of fella.
Look, currently no, but in the past,
No,
yes.
because
So,
of. Mm-hmm. Do you
work
think it's?
purposes, internet
Sorry.
and work purposes at the moment, needing a bit more resource to do this with a solid internet connection where we're not out bush running off inverters and stuff.
Yeah.
And a teenage daughter as well that is gotten a bit sick of living out bush and remote with me for so many years. So.
Well, I love everything you represent. I love that you're against the government. I love that you've tested the boundaries throughout the years. And I think it's really funny. Have you seen a video that went viral regarding so the cop has like all these masks and he goes to these three girls on a train. I think it's in Melbourne, and he's like, yo, here is this, there is a directive. And then the girls are like, but a directive, what exactly is a directive? Is a directive actually a legislation? Is it like, am I obligated to do it? He didn't know what to say. He walked away. Like,
yep, direction is not law. It's not simple. And
exactly.
they have an important point here, dear. They have to have proof of receipt of service. But the health minister said, well, he never said it to me. Do you have proof of receipt of service that I received such a direction? Oh, mate, didn't you see it on TV? No, I don't have a TV. I don't watch TV. How would I know? Oh, what about Facebook? Facebook deleted me 12 months ago for doing what I do. I wouldn't have said it on social media either.
No, exactly right. And I think people need to know how to speak. I'm like a nervous wreck. Like I wouldn't be very good, but I do always go against the main narrative. If people tell me to wear a mask in a supermarket, I will not. People tell me to wear a mask on a train, I don't. And I've always gone against it, but I have been afraid of the day or the moment where a Karen or where either a Karen or a police officer will come up to me and start, jabbering at me saying, you should be doing this. Like, I don't know how I'd react, but yeah.
Really simple. The second maxim of law, the onus or burden of proof is on the one making the claim.
Yeah.
You've got a police officer, for example, saying, but you have to do it because it's the law. Well, can you provide some proof and evidence of your claim that it in fact is law? Can you verify you're authorised to enforce that?
Exactly. And so you're a bush lawyer or rogue lawyer or whatever the term is. And some time ago, I had Serene Tefaha on my channel. She backed out last minute. She's been working on a class action against the government, and the government, being the evil, corrupt bastards that they are, decided that rather than dealing with a class action suit, they would swipe and take away her ability to practice law as a lawyer. But she's not restricted too much because she could do what you do, right? Is that a thing? And is that a rising trend?
I spoke with Serene a couple of weeks ago, and she's a powerhouse too. World of respect for what she's doing. She's just doing it as a self-represented litigant. She's still determined to carry on. They actually took her practicing certificate off her within 3 or 4 hours of filing for that class action. It happened the same day because they were that worried about the case she was putting forward. They went, we're not having this, and they axed it then and there the same day.
It's infuriating that they've done that. It's like, it's clear. I don't understand how stupid people can be. It's clear. It's so clear that we are being censored from talking about what the government, what big tech is doing to remove anything to do with the word vaccination, anything to do with C19, anything to do with all of it has been either fact-checked with alternative facts that don't even make sense. People say, well, why don't you refer to the doctors? Okay, I will. I'll refer to Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. I'll refer to the alternative doctors that you guys will not look at. Do you know what I mean? It's so obvious. Yeah, people are so stupid, and it really frustrates me. And I just remembered the question I wanted to ask you earlier that I forgot. Aussies are really lazy. I don't mean that to be rude or mean. And I know that a lot of Aussies don't consider me Australian, and they always say deport DR because I'm daughter of immigrants, whatever, I don't care. The point is, Aussies are, what's the word? Apathetic. They're apathetic. And you said it earlier. She'll be right, mate. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I'm Aussie too. I was born and raised here. I love this country and I don't want it to get worse. It's getting worse. Stand up and fight. Who cares about your current little comfortable little bubble? You know, do your little bit. Just don't wear the mask. And if you get fined, don't worry. It's okay. They throw half of those fines away. Stop being so chicken. What do you think we can do to wake up the people? Because I can only do so much with a live stream, with an informative video, with my outside activism. What can we do?
Well, look, people, I think, with the mask thing, for example, have got to ask themselves, look, if you're not getting the right answers, you're not asking the right questions.
Mm-hmm.
So as far as the mask thing goes, it's a matter of just putting it out there. Well, hang on, are you more afraid of the fine or the virus? The virus existence itself is quite questionable, as many people know. So
that's a great question.
What are you more scared of, a $200 fine or losing your rights or being subservient and blindly obedient and compliant to this BS that's been perpetrated against the people? What's worse? Hell, I'd happily wear a $200 fine every day of the week rather than, be a part of this blind subservient and compliance, which is what's allowing them to keep perpetuating this. The $200 fine is enough to scare you to voluntarily give up your rights. You need to ask yourself some serious questions.
Completely agree. So Elizabeth Oakman asks, are you on Twitter? Like, where can people find you?
No social media whatsoever.
I'll pop your email below then if anyone wants to contact you and get out of a fine or something.
If people want to get in touch with me, do it via email. After Facebook and that deleted me for teaching people and helping people learn all this stuff about a year ago, I just haven't bothered. I don't believe in missing out on much either.
You're not.
I don't need more presence. People find me when they need to for help, and I just keep plodding along and moving forward.
And how many years have you been at this sort of self-lawyering?
Well, look, probably 12 to 18 months I've been sort of doing it a bit more as a business. Prior to that was just helping people and getting involved with campaigns and environment centres and actions, helping out friends with, hey, dude, I've got a fine. All right, walk here, do this, say this, drop one of these on them, send one of these documents and let me know how you go. In the last 12, 18 months, though, due to COVID BS and everyone going, hey, hang on, don't we have these things called rights? And people wanting to learn more about it. Even some of my old friends, I've been going on about this for 20 years with you all, and now you want to listen? It's because no one cared until it was on the front door, until it was
exactly.
No one gave a shit. Now it's affecting everyone's going, hey, hang on, what about our rights? What about common law? What about the Constitution? What about this? What about, all right, if people had taken more of an interest in their rights before it affected them, when it wasn't about you personally, and this was being done for humanity, for the greater good, and people
no one else.
It could have avoided the mess that we're in now, but that's not how it is. There's no point crying over spilt milk. We are where we are. And the fact that people are now waking up and starting to learn this and prepared to take a stand, that's fantastic. It's just a shame it's taken so long for that to occur. And it took this level of tyranny for people to take a step up and go, hang on, I'm not prepared to cop this. It's been going on covertly for generations. It's just now it's more in our face.
Now it's in our face, but still not enough. Like, there aren't enough. I feel like if 20,000 people showed up at a rally, the cops would run scared. But it's only like 3,000 tops showing up in Victoria at the rallies, and the cops just run them over with their horses and like, pop them all in prison for a little while. It's ridiculous. We had a
great one up here near me on the Gold Coast a couple of weeks ago. We had between 2,000 and 3,000 people turn up, and not a single uniformed policeman in sight. couple of undercovers there that stood out like dog's balls, but there was no uniform. We informed them. I rang them and let them know what we're doing on the day and the location. And they were like, yep, no worries. They asked us to do some paperwork, which we declined because I wouldn't join into a contract with them. And we just went, well, okay, we're doing what we're doing. We've informed you. We're not asking permission. We're not seeking you to grant us the authority or permission to do something we have the right to do. We have the right to protest.
Exactly right. I'm so glad that Queensland has that, because Victoria, my home state, does not.
Right.
This guy, Boots. Sorry?
I think we've all seen the footage of what happened to Victorian one last time, and Nick Patterson, and how all that went for everyone down there.
Exactly. This is Bootso. Must be a new viewer. Hi, Bootso. Thanks for jumping on. Are we in danger of losing our BGC as well? I'm not sure what he means. Do you know what that means?
No idea what a BGC is.
Oh, okay. All right, well, that's okay.
But so you want to put what a BGC is in the chat, and then maybe we can.
Yeah. He will, and then we can talk about it. I'm assuming he will. Okay. And what about the vaccine itself? Do you believe it is a tool or an agenda to like wipe out 50,000 people, to like lessen? Go ahead. Sorry, go.
It's an experiment. They've stated it's in trial and testing till 2023. That is
2022. It's changed. It's
2022. Yeah, they brought the trial dates down. There is so much information that is.
But no one's looking at it. The people are so lemmings. They're lemmings. They're sheep. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It's all right. Look, if people want to be sheep, it's their choice to do so. People go, oh, you're one of them anti-vaxxers. No, I'm a pro-choice. If people want to choose to take the jab, they should have every right to do so. But at the same time, if people want not to take the jab, they should have the same rights. It's about that choice of what we put into our own bodies.
That's true.
I can't mandate that. The 5123A of the Constitution actually protects us from that, which is in regards to civil conscription and medical procedures without consent. That's right. The other one, the Slavery Sexual Servitude Act of 1999, protects us from such things as well, unless they'd like to claim slaveholder rights, which no one really wants to do. So there are various Commonwealth and federal acts that do protect us.
I don't want to be a slave.
Well, no, none of us do, but for them, they have to claim slaveholder rights to enforce that, which is highly illegal and they can't do.
No, exactly right. I had a conversation today with someone, and it pissed me off. I wanted to shake her, but basically I said something like, she said, "Oh, I just got my flu injection, and I already got my first COVID injection," and I was like, "Oh," and then when I had her alone, I said, "So you didn't feel sick after? You weren't like?" She goes, "No." She goes, "I was fine. It was all good." I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Did you do that because of your health, or did you do that because, like a lot of other people, you're only doing it so that you can go in and out of Australia and interstate and stuff?" And she looked at me. She goes, "No." She goes, "We need to get it done. We have to stay healthy." And I said, "Do you know there's like a 97% success rate of recovery with it, don't you?" And she goes, "Oh," she scoffed at me. And then I said, "A lot of people have gotten it," and I said, my first example was Donald Trump. And she goes, "Ha! He never had it. He never had it. It's not true." And I said, "He did have it, and he overcame it in 3 days." And then, and then she goes, No, I don't like the man." And I said, "Okay, you don't like the man. Well, Prince Charles, Boris Johnson, many people have had it and have overcome it." And then I said, "I think my personal opinion is I might wait 2 years." And she goes, "In 2 years, you'll probably be dead." She said that to me today.
People who have had it are more likely to be dead in 2 years than the rest of us.
That's my point, because there's a 2-year timer ish, like that. I need to research this further. There's like a 2-year timer on it, and everyone that's had it may or may not be dead. I hope that's not the case, because a family member of mine recently had it, and I was bawling my eyes out about it. But yeah, it's so frustrating to me. And then I said something like, so you believe everything the media tells you, do you? And she goes, why would they lie to us? And I said, well, I'm doing my own research. She kept, it's literally, I was insane to her. I was the moron in that dynamic.
What I like to do with people is just ask them if they can name a time in history where the media or the government ever put the people's best interests first.
Well, her argument was a relatively good one, but I wasn't going to get into it at my place of work. But she said lots and lots of different diseases have existed that vaccinations have helped that don't exist now. Now, I know that the truth is, say something with something like polio, that it had already gone down before they even started implementing the vaccine. But I didn't say that, and I didn't have the graphs on me. It's like, that's just dumb. I just left it, and I went back to work.
Just for some info, polio was eradicated almost completely some 15 years before we had a vaccine for it here in Australia. And just to the question, am I a Zionist? No, I'm very much anti-Zionist, and anything to do with those treasonous, corrupt bastards who have enslaved half the planet through finance and controlling power and energy and wealth control. They are some of the elitist bastards behind everything. Often, because of my Hebrew first name, I get accused of that shit a lot. And I've been at war with these for 20 years, just to clear that one up, guys. I've been accused.
These people were hating. They were hating on you simply because of your name. And I hate people that do that. And I said to them, "Oh,
doesn't worry me."
Okay, well, I was defending you, and I said, "Oh, so because of his background, you automatically hate him." People are like that. It's like, "Oh, he's black. Oh, well, then he can't do this and he can't do that, and he's not smart and he can't this and he can't." I hate that. That's what sadly some of my audience does, and it does bother me because I like to think.
Question, dear. It wasn't a dig. I just thought I'd answer it for
me. No, it was a dig. No, maybe he wasn't digging at you, but there were people earlier who were digging at you.
Look,
well, no, sorry, I'm very defensive. I'm very defensive of my guests.
I've been at war with the government and the system for nearly 25 years, which includes the Zionists and the Masonry and the Illuminati, all these bastards that are pulling strings from behind the scenes. These are the pricks I've been at war with for most of my adult life.
Well, we're not here to talk about the Zionists or anything like that. I have no issues with anyone in that regard. I think a lot. Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
Help to raise the consciousness to help people learn what their rights are, so they have the confidence and the empowerment to take a stand against this tyranny and corruption, and actually do something about it. To find ways of seeing and achieving.
It froze. Did it freeze for you guys? Hello? No. Hello?
Sorry, I'm hotspotting off my phone. When the phone rings, it cuts out. You there?
I'm going to refresh the screen. Give me a second, guys.
Yep.
Okay, can everyone hear? Is everything good? Is it still frozen?
No, it's working.
Okay.
So my phone rang and it froze me up.
Oh, okay, that's what it was. That's all right. I just thought I'd yeah, no, just to cover the topic a little bit, because I don't like talking about it, because it's just people talk about it all the time in Telegram group chats. Oh, they're responsible for this and they're Christ killers and this and this and this and this. It's like, how many times can you hear that? How many times can you hear that? Honestly, it's like, okay, that's what you think. Anyway, it's just stupid. And so
everyone's entitled to opinion. Doesn't mean the rest of us have to agree with it.
Opinions are like assholes. Everybody has one.
We don't need to see it. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so at the moment, are you working on any cases? Are you part of the tribunal of people? Like, are you part of like a secret society of no. doctors and anti-vaxxers and are you guys working on something come on, let's get Australia back, let's do something, come on. I
work with a few groups there and help out where I can with a lot of stuff, largely through the common law community and the common law courts here in Australia as one of the mobs I help with. some of the 5G stuff and that as well. Look, when people reach out and ask for help or have the time, I generally get involved. So just try and go through that. Common law is a great way to help people to ascertain our common law rights to be able to achieve some remedy from this tyrannous system. And through our common law rights, we can access things like trust and equity a bit easier and quicker to actually get the remedy. That's the problem with a lot of the law stuff, that people are all spouting about our rights and use this and try that. It's how do we get remedy? We're all aware of the problem. We need to look at the solutions. And problem-based thinking isn't going to help. One of my favorite quotes is an old Albert Einstein quote, is we can't fix the problem with the same thinking that created the problem.
Yes, that's a very popular quote.
So that's what it is. And look, through doing that, we run common law Zoom chats on Tuesdays and Thursday nights, which are national, open to anyone who wants to join in and come and learn. Numbers vary from 50 to 100 or so sometimes on there. So we've got a pretty good mix of people on there. These are all people from different walks of life who just want to learn a bit more about their rights and how can we get some remedy for the tyranny and oppression that's going on. So it's a great way to be able to do that is through common law and, enacting our common law rights and standing with them. I tell people we don't stand under the Constitution. We don't stand under common law. We stand with. The only thing we stand under is creation, God, creator, nature, whatever you want to call it. That's the only authority we really stand under. Anything else we stand with.
Yeah. Bushman, good on you, mate. That's the end of that. Guys, we're at the last 20 minutes, so you can start asking your questions and I'll pop them up on the screen for anyone that has any legitimate good questions. But otherwise I have plenty still in my head. Do you think any of this goes against, someone told me to ask you something about Nuremberg. Let me see if I can find the question because that happened on tell.
The Nuremberg Code's an oldie. The Nuremberg Code had a few things. One, against medical procedures without consent, and also things where I was just following directions. That's not going to fly. We're all endowed with reason and conscience and a mind capable of possessing knowledge. Now, we've got sheep acting in some sort of, police or authority manner, going, oh, but I was just following directions. Are you incapable of thinking for yourself? Does something inside you not say this is morally wrong? Where is your moral compass at? A great quote, one of the Greek philosophers, Plato, he said that we actually don't need laws. He goes, good people are going to do the right thing anyway, and bad people are going to break the laws regardless of what they are. What we need is a better moral compass, not more stringent laws and restrictions and all that sort of jazz. And I think there was a lot of wisdom to be had out of that. If we had a better moral compass, we wouldn't be in this mess we're in. And the basis of common law is cause no harm, loss, damage, or injury, and to always stand and act with honour and integrity. Now, philosophy was adopted worldwide, golden rule that all the biblical scriptures speak of, cause no harm. This is natural law. Do no harm, not just to your fellow man, but to the land, the air, the water, the trees, the animals. If none of us went round causing harm, loss, damage, or injury, and everyone stood and acted with honour and integrity, we wouldn't have the mess of a planet that we have at the moment. That's a pretty basic for people to live by. It's not that hard.
Yeah, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's the golden rule in the Bible. This is a very biased thing of me to say, but if we were all based on the foundation of Christ, we probably wouldn't have the amount of issues that we have. But people like to go by I did it my way. Well, your way is shit. The object. You know what I mean? The objective more.
The laws of nature and natural law. Why aren't people more in tune with that and living with that and just that very simple philosophy of cause no harm? It's not rocket science.
It's not, but people like to cause harm. We have mothers purposely aborting their babies and making videos about it and laughing about it. We have men in the Islamic world chopping heads off women, doing it like they're drunk happy. It's really vile. The way they kill animals in halal, the way it's not just Muslims. I don't mean to it's so many different groups of people. Everyone's doing horrible, evil things, and we just sit by and allow it to happen.
There's good and bad in every group of people somewhere.
Yes,
There's always
of
going to be a lot
course.
somewhere.
Jews,
And some,
Latinos, blacks, absolutely. Asians.
and there's a lot of good ones in all these groups, and there's always going to be a shitty one in there too that, gives the rest of that group a bad name for doing something stupid.
Definitely true.
It's human nature. But what we try and do is to help people to learn, look, there's better ways.
Mm-hmm. And we need people like you, because you seem to know and understand the law more than most. I actually met you, for those who don't remember, through Tom Barnett. That was a very successful live stream. It went for quite a while. It had a lot of viewers at the one time, and it's continued to circulate. And it was because of him that
Tom's awesome. He's a very, very knowledgeable guy. Nice guy as well.
He's a very nice guy. He did his live. His live didn't work from his house, and he had to sort of drive. And he was like in the middle of the road, and he was just like sitting in the middle of the road doing his live. And I'm like, oh, okay, as long as it works. But it was because of him that I found out about you. And I don't know whether you've gotten an email yet from a friend of mine. His name is Jimothy from Planned Illusion, and he wants to interview you too, because I told him about you, and I said you should get this guy on. So yeah.
I've got an admin lady that deals with my emails nowadays because I'm too busy. So
yes, you have an assistant. You have your own entourage. You're becoming, the shit.
I couldn't keep up with doing the admin and all the court dates and stuff and appointments for people to help them to learn this sort of stuff and putting out documents and all that sort of jazz as well. So I've had to, bring on some staff just to help me stay on top of it so I can keep helping people.
Jim says you are the first Jewish gentleman I have met who has answered my sincere question straight up. Full respect. Respect, man. You did not ameliorate around the question. So there you go. You've just won some respect from the people. The people have spoken.
No, look, Jim, I like to go bush, not one to beat around the bush. They're two different things.
That's awesome. And what does your wife think about what you're doing?
No wife.
Does she agree with you? Sorry?
But no wife, just me and my daughter.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So what does your daughter think? Does she think you're an Australian patriot? Because you certainly are a pioneer.
Look, a bit of both. I think she's a bit sick of hearing about it because she's grown up listening to me talk about this all of her life, and she just wants to be a teenager. But at the same time, she's learned a lot and she gets it in a big way and understands a bit more about her rights than say most kids her age would. So
good. Have you homeschooled her?
No, she's been through other schools and so no homeschooling, but she's certainly got a fair bit of schooling at home, having a dad like me.
Yeah, well, because I'm sort of afraid of the future. I don't want my future children or even all my nieces and nephews that I have, I don't want them learning about, I want them learning about what's in the Constitution. I want them knowing what's in the Bible. I want them to not be told that little boys can be little girls when they grow up. I want them to, do you know what I mean? As someone who's been battling these sorts of things in Australia for years and years, would you say that we've lost the battle in the at least in academia, in schools?
Yeah, no. Look, no education. Look, the system, which is what provides the education system, no system is going to provide an education to its people to educate them enough to overthrow the same system which is educating them.
Exactly.
It's very deliberate, you know.
It is.
You're not going to receive that education through the education system because they're just not going to educate people with the knowledge to overthrow that system.
Exactly right. No, you're not wrong. That's very true. How old is Zev's daughter?
Teenager.
Okay, that's all the details we need. And are you working on anything really big at the moment? Are you assisting with any of the class action suits against the government in Australia? Are you working anything against a state government or the federal government? Are you doing anything like that?
I'll look a few bits and pieces. We've got multiple claims and stuff against various government ministers and departments and stuff. Most of the guys doing the big class action stuff have got a team already. If I ask for my help or assistance, I'm happy to, share some of what I can do or some knowledge or some paperwork. Most of them seem to have that pretty run, pretty down pat. I'm just more so trying to focus on helping the little people and doing some workshops and seminars in the next few weeks to help people learn a bit more of how they can do this themselves, how to utilize the paperwork, tricks of the trade for how to hold themselves in court, all that sort of stuff. So, it just depends on what people are wanting to learn. I generally, if I've had a crack at it and done it successfully myself, I'm happy to share that with others as to, how that can work or what I've done.
You're exactly right. And you're very busy. The last time I tried to contact you, you were in the middle of a Zoom while we were making an appointment.
Yeah, look, I'm on a lot of Zooms and stuff. I run a lot of my appointments via Zoom because not everyone lives locally where I do. So helping people out around Australia and a few international people as well that have reached out to us as well. Obviously I do a lot of that via Zoom. And Jim, for your question, do I say, Your Honour, I seek leave in this matter? No, I don't seek shit from the courts. I just let them know what I'm doing. I don't ask for a lot from the courts. I inform them. It doesn't always go so well with the magistrates because you're supposed to ask leave to have it. Well, I've stated why I'm here and what I'm doing. That should be enough. So, again, I'm not a fan of. Once you start asking permission, that's a submission of authority to another, which I don't like to do. So there's other ways of wording that without giving up your submitting to their authority, so to speak.
Yeah. So what happens? Say I'm before the court and they say, will you please identify yourself for the court? I'm not supposed to say, hi, I'm Dia Beltran because I've already stuffed up, right?
Yeah, they won't ask you to identify yourself. We'll use
whatever the terms.
Well,
Sorry, go.
When you walk into court, we'll go with the name John Smith. When you walk into the courtroom, they'll often ask you, are you John Smith? That's the first thing you get asked. And most people cock up straight away there. I'm not the name. I'm a living man or woman. I'm not doing right. You're toast. You're going to be done and tossed out of court in an instant for trying any of that. Even years ago, that didn't work for a lot of us. But when they ask you, are you John Smith? Well, I'm the man who's been known to answer to that name. That's a very subtle approach. You haven't agreed to being the name. You haven't given them joinder.
No.
And you haven't said that you are that entity. And you've also claimed that you're a man or a woman who's been known to answer to that name, therefore separating yourself from it. So for your watchers here familiar with the straw man, it's a way to negate that very simply, very politely, without being in dishonor or arguing with them, to just go, I'm the man who's been known to answer to that name.
Because the moment you give the joinder, you've pretty much made yourself obsolete. Like it's like, okay, you've lost.
What they're looking for is not joinder with you as a living man or woman. They're looking for joinder with a name on the birth certificate. They're
to the being that's there.
To the corporate entity or the trust or the estate, not you.
No. Yeah, and that's what people don't know. People don't know that they're not a living human being. There's two different worlds. There's the world of how do I explain it? Is would you say the world of the dead and the world of the living?
Sort of legal and lawful. Legal matters are for commerce and for the dead, and lawful matters are for the living. This is why we stand with things like common law. That's for living men and women. Now, when you go into court, for example, and they say, are you John Smith? And you say, well, I'm the man who's been known to answer to that name. You haven't given them that joinder. You haven't agreed to being that. So what happens with the way a trust works is they want you to be the trustee. The trustee is the person who pays the bill. So when they ask, are you John Smith? And you go, yes, you're the trustee. Any claims brought toward or against you that day, you're liable for. Now, there are other ways of subverting and getting around that. But I'm the man who's been known to answer to that name. You can then, depending on the Magi and how things go, I'm the principal and I'll be remaining the executive beneficiary today. Before we move on, I'd like to establish everyone's standing and nominate the magistrate or the prosecutor as the trustee, and then any claims brought against you for the day, they pay, not you, because you are not the trustee. You're the creditor.
No. But, okay, so this question just popped into my head. If someone owes you money and then it ends up going to court, and does the system you're doing help these bad people who owe another individual money? Sorry, that just came into my head then.
What a lot of people confuse stuff with, like people like myself, what we help people to learn. It's not a get out of jail free card.
No.
Not just hand it, but if you've caused harm, loss, damage, or injury, the honourable thing to do is provide remedy for that. If I come to your place and smash a window, I've caused damage. I have to provide remedy for that. I would pay to have that fixed. That would be the honourable thing to do. Provide remedy for the damage or the loss. So if you're owing, that's a loss. The honourable thing would be to remedy that by giving that money back.
But a person of honour might use what they've learned from you to get out of something like that, like owing another human being money.
Well, then that's not honourable, is it?
No, it really isn't. Let's see if there's any good questions on the side here. Okay, let's have a look. Are you ever in contact with Wayne Glue? I don't even know who that is. Excuse me.
Wayne Glue's an older gentleman in WA. I haven't been in touch with Wayne for quite some time. I did do as last year at some point. Wayne's very knowledgeable when it comes to the Constitution. That's his forte.
Do you know? I know someone else like that. He helped me with a script that I did for a video called, I think it was called Wake Up Australia, and it was about predominantly the fact that people don't know that there are two constitutions, and that we should be operating on the original Constitution 1901, but we're actually operating on a diluted version of all the laws that have been implemented and passed as legislation the last couple of years, even the gay marriage, and as well as the abortions up to the 9th month. They're all unlawful because they don't actually follow the original Constitution. They follow the diluted Constitution. Do you have a comment on that?
Most of the laws in this country aren't technically lawful, depending on how far back in time you go. Now, if we look back at 1973, the Gough Whitlam government, the introduction of the Queen of Australia. We don't have a queen. The Queen of Australia is a dead fictitious corporate entity which owns no land, seals or titles and cannot enact or pass laws, cannot grant royal assent. Now, if we look back a little bit further from 1973, let's go back to 1874, Pacific Island Protection Act, Queen Victoria. So 1874, when this came about, she claimed that the Crown, Commonwealth, these type of authorities only had authority under that Admiralty law to the high tide mark. Past that was tribal law. Now, if we go back even further again to when Captain Cook and Arthur Phillip and all came here and they strolled up the beach with their flag or their rag flapping on a stick and planted it in the sand, that is not a bill of sale or an exchange of title. You can't come and just whack a flag. If I turn up at your house, dear, and put my own flag in the ground in front of your house and goes, oh, I've got a flag. I own this now. You'd laugh your ass off.
Yay! It's Zev! Give me a hug! Yay!
But you know what I mean? Like, you can't just rock up at someone's place and jam a flag on a stick in the ground and go, oh, that's mine now. I own it because I've got a flag. That's not how it bloody works. This is what they've done here when Cook and all these guys came over here, planted a flag in the ground and get, right, we own this now. No.
Yeah.
That's not a bill of sale. There's no exchange of title by the act of planting a flag on it. That, in fact, in accordance with even older laws going back to even 1500s and the Westphalia Treaty and all these other things from the 1560s and further back, this is not an exchange of title. What they've done is they've imported foreign laws and foreign maxims of law to a foreign occupied land.
Yes.
That was a criminal act. Now,
they've conquered.
Everything after that criminal act is also a criminal act. Same as trespass. If you trespass, anything after the act of trespass is also a criminal act. Can't be you.
No, exactly. No, that makes sense to me, but I don't think it makes sense to people in Parliament. Okay, so has Zev done any Christian apologetic studies? He mentioned a straw man term.
Look, technically, specific apologetic studies, no, but certainly well versed in strawman, uniform commercial code, and the trust and how all that was came about and done. How to do all your financial filing statements with UCC and all that sort of jazz. Well versed on a lot of that sort of stuff. That's another thing I help people with.
No, yeah, absolutely. Let's see if I've got people on D Live. I forgot about my D Live audience. I don't want to ignore them unless if they have any questions. My daughter got tired of the restrictions of not having a birth certificate, so she got one at 21 so she could fly.
Well, the other way around that is very simple. Affidavits from the mother and the father saying that you were born here on the land of Australia. You send those affidavits into DFAT, Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, verifying that you were born here. They have to give you a passport. There's your ID without the need for a birth certificate.
Well, if I personally wanted to give up my birth certificate and undertake a living, is it called a living certificate?
Live birth record you get from the hospital with a Freedom of Information request.
Okay, so I can forego my birth certificate for a live for what you just said, and that would and I'm still technically a part. Like I'm not like some sort of outsider alien refugee. I would still get paid like I get paid and
verification of your identity. The birth certificate even says on it, if you have a look, this is not to be used for identification purposes. And what does everyone else?
I did not know that. I actually didn't know that.
We see your birth certificate. It says here on the birth certificate, this is not to be used for identification purposes.
Bearing, my favorite YouTuber. This is Bearing, everyone. I'm sure you all know who he is. Anyway, he just asked, wait, so freehold property does not exist in Australia for anyone after Captain Cook?
Well, how can it? Where is the exchange of title? Where is the bill of sale for any of these properties or land? For people who think they own property, one, we've got the whole mortgage fraud, which I could do another chat with you another time.
Oh, yes, please. You're coming back. You're coming back. You're coming back.
The other side of that, when you have a property, it's given a lot number. And people go, oh, I own the lot. Well, no one stops to look at what does lot stand for. LOT stands for location of title. What you technically own is coordinates on a friggin' map. This is why it's such deep fraud that goes on with all of this. How can someone sell you something they can't prove that they own? Where's the original sale or the original exchange of title in order to enact that? Okay,
so by that logic, if anyone who has land has this land, but they have to pay rates and they have to pay all this stuff every year, is it actually their land? Because the government could probably come at any time and actually take it, right?
Well, they can try, but how can they prove it's theirs? Where did they purchase it from?
The government or the person who has the land?
Either. Where did they buy it from to claim ownership of it?
Hang on a second, I said it. What is this? What about John Batman? Didn't he purchase the land that is now Melbourne? There's a Batman Avenue and everything.
Yeah, look through that as to where it was purchased from and by who. You know, was there an equitable trade that occurred for that to take place? There's specific in some of the older laws stating that trade is to be fair and equitable. You cannot trade things like beads for land. This is written into some very, very old law. Yeah, who held the original title? Where did that exist?
Okay, so what about, you said earlier that there is natural law, there is nature. So does that mean, I don't mean to get into this, so I'm gonna piss myself off now. But does that mean that the pygmies who were here before the Aboriginals are the original title owners, even though they're gone, and now we sort of give all of our attention to the Aboriginal people, which is fine. But the point being, with that debacle, it was two separate racial groups, and now it's like, oh well, the white man and the Aboriginal. If the Aboriginal or the tribal people, or however you want to word it, operate on natural law and not on the understanding of the Westminster system, who really owns the land?
That's a great question. So you've got to go back to where the original people, you know, and who's to say that the Pygmies weren't part of the original people that are now referred to as Aboriginal people? Who's to say they weren't one of the tribes? And yet dinosaurs may very well have held some of the original titles. Whether they actually held titles, this is the problem. We had the white settlers come to these lands asking about flags and titles. Well, the tribes never needed that. They already had their own system of governance.
Exactly.
A lot of this was last year in the Love versus the Commonwealth case, High Court of Australia in Sydney on the 11th of Feb. Anyone that wants to look that up. The case is called Love versus the Commonwealth. They recognise the sovereign rights to sovereign governance, for sovereigns to have their own sovereign governance and govern themselves. But because the government is shit scared of the word sovereignty, they referred to sovereigns as non-aliens, non-citizens, putting them outside of the jurisdiction of the government, as they can't prove they're not aliens to this land. They're not citizens of the ship either, under their admiralty BS. Therefore, non-alien, non-citizen was the term, so they wouldn't have to use the word sovereignty.
That's ridiculous. Okay, so what about this workaround? Is this a good loophole? Creating your own micronation.
Well, it's been done. Look at the Hutt River Province, Caledonius of Australis. Mobs have done this over the years here in Australia.
But that's the workaround, right? Or does it not? Because it doesn't really work. After there's one in Western Australia where the dude died, and the kids didn't really want it. That okay? There you go. Sorry, that's done now. Like he's passed away, and the family didn't want to keep it up. So and you still have to pay taxes. You still have to pay taxes. And so the technical term is then used as donation.
Yep, donations and sustenance and volunteering.
Yeah. So nothing really works. Either way, the government gets what they want. We don't win.
Well, until enough of us take a stand and call them out on their own bullshit, yeah, they do. It's just, we just numbers. We need enough people to all stand unified and have some unity to all take a stand together. We're going to see some better changes then. Until that occurs, yeah, we're fighting a losing battle. But more and more of us are joining the fight. So we're getting closer on that unity.
Yeah. So are you hopeful? Are you optimistic, or is our future bleak? Is it glib?
I'm always optimistic, dear, because I'd rather focus on the positive. And I just feel more and more people wake up and start to stand up. Yeah, things are going to change. May take longer than I like, but it's certainly happening.
Okay, but back to my original question, you don't think the vaccine passports will be passed? Will be free to travel interstate? Okay, that makes me happy. You're the first person who has said that, and that's just
I don't think really it'll be up to Parliament at a federal level. How can it when Parliament's not sitting?
Well, they could do what they could do, what Trump and what other presidents do, where they do they just sign a piece of paper and it goes into law. I mean, I know that's not how our government works, but that's what people can do.
It's not law. If they do that, it's not law.
Executive order. I think that's the term I'm thinking of.
Even still, it's not going to work here. Our legal and judiciary and parliamentary system are different.
Yes, well, it's quite different. It's the Westminster system, and they don't operate the same way as the Brits do. All right, I think that's the end of all my questions. I really appreciate everyone jumping on and asking all these questions. Are you okay?
Yep. Yeah, just about to have some.
Okay, cool. Well, I'll let you go. Thank you guys for asking questions. Zev, you've been an awesome guest. I've loved having you. This is why I wanted you on. This is why I was so belligerent and annoying, because I knew you'd be a good guest. And you have to come back on to talk house rates and property and cars. Well, whatever we haven't tapped on today, I'd like you to come back so we can tap to it another time.
Cool.
All right, cool. Well, I'll see you soon behind the scenes, and thank you so much for coming on, and thanks guys for tuning in for an awesome live. Bye. Bye. No worries. See ya. Okie dokie. I'm going to, all right, go. Oh, it's really hot here. Bye, everyone.